Season's greetings, Internet, and welcome back for another of the 12 vids of Oxmas. For today's particular little endeavor, we're going to be taking another trip down memory lane. Now, I'm sure, like myself, there are plenty of you who, when you were little, there was just that one present when you were a kid that you just wanted so bad. You could taste it. You were like begging your parents to death. Mom, Dad, give me this thing. Give me this thing I saw on TV. Please give me this thing. I'll die if I don't get this thing. And then, well, things happened. Your parents weren't able to afford it, or you just never got the thing because you were a brat that year or something. Today, ladies, gentlemen, and all other configurations of being, we're going to be talking about the ones that got away. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be talking about toys from at least my personal childhood that I wanted so bad. So bad I could taste it, so bad I hurt when I didn't get it for my Christmas presents. Didn't get it under the tree. But over the years, I got over it. And then I got a job and I got expendable income, and I started buying the stuff for myself. So, without further ado, let's just jump right into this. Now, there's no rhyme or reason for what I'm about to pick up, and for where it comes, what tier list this was on. These are just things that, by some miracle, over the course of the last 15? No, not even 15. The last 5 to 10 years, I've been able to hold within my hands and monetarily exchange to own these items that I wanted when I was a child. Let's go! Now, to start things off, I'm a child of the 90s, okay? I was born in 1989. I came of age during the 90s into the early 2000s, though I think I might be using that term wrong. And one of the most 90s things ever that I own, that I wanted so bad, was a toy my brother actually owned, and I wanted one for myself, but because of, again, financial constraints and similar garbage like that, my parents couldn't get me one. So, before you, I hold the one, the only, the legend, the classic, the Tiger 2XL from 1990. When were you made? From 1992 by Tiger Electronic Toys. Now, with this thing, it's similar to a Teddy Ruxpin, only the concept for this toy has been around since the 1970s. Back in the 70s, this thing was essentially just an 8-track tape player that had like a robot face and the lights would blink and stuff. But in the 90s, we had better technology. So this guy is not an 8-track player, thank God. He's a cassette player. So what you would do with this fella is you would put the cassette in his chest, like so, in his little tape player, in case I didn't show it off. You'd put that in there, close the door, and then you would hit the fancy little play button here, right on his chest, and he would talk, his eyes would light up, his mouth would blink, and you could play games with him. I think it might be at the end of the tape. Yeah, I'm gonna say that's the end. Oh!
Thank you very much for turning me on. I am your toy robot, 2XL, and this program is called Fun and Games. It will be my job to provide questions and games. It will be your job to have fun.
Isn't that awesome? Now, I will admit, it's not as awesome as it could be because, it just sits there and blinks and talks to you in that oddly interesting voice and stuff, but you do actually interact with it. He'll ask you questions and stuff, and you would push these little buttons on I don't know how to say this, on his groin, I guess. Right down between his little feet. But that's as much as I'm going to go into detail on this one, because I actually have a video where I talked about this particular toy. If you check the little link that just popped up over here, you can go back and watch that. But that one, I wanted that silly little robot so bad for so long, and I couldn't find one. I checked the Goodwills, because I didn't want to go online and buy it that way. I checked everywhere I could think of, antique stores, flea markets, zip, zilch, nada. Couldn't find a little bugger. And then I walked into a local game store that we have around here, a retro game and movie record store, a bric-a-brac kind of store, mainly for retro gamers. And that little bugger was sitting on the shelf, and I just about died. I was like, oh, there he is, my holy grail. So I spent the money, I brought him home, and my brother was super jealous because he got rid of his back in the 90s. So, okay, now this next one, this one's honestly really silly. I wanted one for a long time, and this was not actually ever a real product until the last couple of years. For those familiar with the Ren and Stimpy show, there was this little fake advertisement commercial in there for a product known as Log. Dun 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 dun. Y'all know the tune and sing along. Yes, all kids love Log, and of course, being the little doofus that I was as a kid, I wanted a Log. Because of that stupid commercial. The jingle made me want it so bad. But anyway, as an adult, and thanks to a little vinyl figure set, which I don't own, I actually found this at the same store I found 2XL, but years apart, I can now proudly say that I own marching band leader Log from Whammo. So we'll put that little bugger over here. There's no real reason or rhyme for why I wanted that. Just the show made it look so cool. Being the dumb little kid that I was like, Mom, can I get a Log? No. Okay, but I really want one. Now this next toy, this one, he's a pretty cool villain from kind of a really kind of lame children's show from the 90s. Because if y'all remember, if y'all were there, the 90s were all about, conservation, recycling, fixing the planet. And there was a certain television show called Captain Planet. And one of the villains from that show, honestly, I cannot remember this guy's name right now. I should have looked it up before I started recording. But I wanted this guy so bad. I mean, look at him. Look at that face. He was from what I recall, which is not very much, because I didn't watch that show a whole lot. Just, every once in a while it'd be on Cartoon Network, and hey, it's that guy. Captain Planet, he's a hero. He's gonna take pollution down to zero. And, well, this villain right here just stood out to me, because look at this guy. He is awesome. He was an atomic energy villain, I believe. And the figure glows in the dark, and just, again, look at that face sculpt. And he had that kickin', almost Mr. T-esque mohawk going on. And of course, I just realized something that he has in common with another certain franchise that I loved as a kid. Do you notice something familiar about those hands? And about those feet? What does that remind you of? Just take a minute and, just think for a minute. What does that particular configuration of fingers to toes, what does that remind you of? But anyway, I wanted one of these so bad back in the day, and then thanks to a lucky find at a flea market, I now have him, even though I can't remember what in the world his name was. Editing me, put his name right here. Yeah, now I own that guy. Yeah. You'll pay for this, Captain Planet. Alright. Now, this next one, I'm going to preface that, well, I was one of those strange children, if it wasn't obvious by, the stuff I've shown so far. And there was a certain children's book series back in the 90s that was all the rage during that point in time. There were books, there was a TV show, there was merchandise. There was a huge push for a certain franchise back in the day. And as a lot of you may remember, there was a certain puppet who was like a main character for the books. Or not for the books, for the franchise. And because of Slappy the Dummy, I wanted a ventriloquist dummy so bad. I wanted one so bad. Because I wanted to be able to, do all that stuff with the doll, and I was also kind of excited to have Slappy as my friend, because again, I was one of those weird children. And as y'all have seen with some of my other videos, I have in fact gotten ventriloquist puppets over my lifetime, but there was one that I found out about that existed that I wanted so bad, and technically I still don't own the one that I've been looking for, but I've kind of placated myself, I guess is the word for it. What I've been looking for is this little jerk right here. What do you call him a jerk? You, apparently. Oh, well, alright. My friends, meet Jerry Mahoney, whom you've already met thanks to my other videos. But back when I was still living with my parents, way back when, I wanted to get a ventriloquist puppet, and not just any puppet. I wanted one like Slappy. And Jerry here, to my knowledge, is about the closest thing in the real world, well, at that time, was the closest thing in the real world to owning an actual Slappy the Dummy. So he's got the red hair. A quick little editor's note here. What I'm referring to here is Slappy from the TV show. Because, well, way back then, I would watch the show, but I didn't read the books. So my mind didn't connect Slappy with the puppet on the cover of the books. My brain was always like, that weird orange-haired, green-eyed guy. That's Slappy. So that's what I'm talking about here. Anyway, enjoy the rest of the video. It's got the moving jaw. But there was another one of these, which I'm still on the hunt for, but they are very expensive, which is the reason why I still don't own one. They made one of these guys, where the eyes weren't just stationary and painted on like these ones. They made one where the eyes moved, and they looked very similar to a certain TV adaptation of a certain puppet. And, just for the heck of it, editing me right about after I say this, I want you to put a side-by-side picture of Slappy and the moving eyes Jerry Mahoney right here on screen. Now, see what I mean? They don't look exactly one-to-one, but it's as close as I probably would have been able to get at that point in time. Right, Jerry? Right. You weirdo. So, if y'all didn't know how ventriloquist puppets work, at least the professional kinds, the head and the body are two separate pieces. And the body has this big hollow spot in the back, which is going to be kind of hard to show. But it's got this big hollow spot in the back where you would reach through a hole in the back of the jacket. You would take hold of the stick the head is attached to, And on the more professional ones, there's like levers and stuff, like for the mouth over here and for like the eyes and eyebrows on this side. But on the particular Jerry Mahoney's that I have, it's a string with a little plastic ring on the bottom, which I don't understand why there's that ring there. You just pull on the string and blah 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 blah. Unfortunately, this Jerry has seen better days. Like, his jaw is literally just trying to fall out of his head. And you gotta, like, shuffle it back inside, and then it works again. And the head stick is trying to come off of the head itself. But I don't care. I finally got myself some Jerry Mahoney's. I still want that Moving Eyes Jerry Mahoney so bad, but they are so expensive and so hard to get. But, yeah. That was another one of the toys that got away when I was a kid, because my parents just couldn't afford it. Oh, but then years later, I did wind up getting my first ventriloquist puppet, which was one of those soft-bodied ones with the string in the back of the neck, and it was a very poor quality Charlie McCarthy. He didn't have enough stuffing in the body cavity, so I literally had to hold him up. And every time I'd pull on the string, his head would do one of these maneuvers, and his mouth would just go like... It wasn't fun to play with. But anyway, moving on to the next of my personal toys that got away. Hopping back on the whole train of toys that talk to you, thanks to batteries. Let's see if y'all can guess. Let's see if y'all can guess. Who is this?
Come dream with me tonight.
That's right, it's...
Hi, my name is Teddy Ruxpin. Can you and I be friends? I really enjoy talking to people. I would like you to meet some of my other friends, too. We're going to have lots of good times together. Now, listen to this sound. That sound reminds you to open the book to page 1. Each time you hear that sound again, you turn a page, okay? There's a picture of Grubby. He's been a good friend of mine for a long time. Say hello to our new friend, Grubby.
Oh, hi there. How are you?
Remember, turn the page.
So, obviously, I was also one of those weirdos that wanted a Teddy Ruxpin when I was a kid. I believe there was a cousin who had one. Hold on, y'all are stealing my light. There was a cousin I had, or an uncle, or someone I was related to had one of these things, you know, from back in the 80s. And I just thought that was the coolest friggin' thing I'd ever seen. Well, next to ventriloquist puppets. And so I begged and pleaded with my parents to get me a Teddy Ruxpin, but they didn't. As a matter of fact, if I remember correctly, Dad, if you're watching this, I remember that year you gave Jessica one and not me, the 1998 reissue that came with the nice little plushie and stuff. But, you know, que sera, sera. What shall be, shall be. Anyway, like I was saying, finally I was able to get one. Unfortunately, that one got sold with a bunch of stuff that went to my uncle because, you know, reasons I'd rather not get into, because this is supposed to be the happy time of year. So this one is one I actually bought for my roommate because, well, they had an issue with Teddy Ruxpin growing up, and they were hoping to kind of do some exposure therapy to get over it. And so I bought this for them, and so far it's worked. Also, I should mention that they had an issue with Chucky back in the day. Y'all know that particular little horror icon. And I'm assuming that, well, they made the correlation, a doll that talks, being turned on while they're asleep, and then coming to life and being like... Well, if y'all want to know what that particular friend's interpretation of what this thing would be, I'm going to, in the description below, I'm going to post a link to the Nostalgia Critic Nostalgiaween special where he had to go up against Teddy Ruxpin, and you'll see just about what my friend was afraid of with this little guy. Unfortunately, with these two, I don't have the connection cable, so I can't fully demonstrate them, but you kind of get the idea. Teddy would talk, the cord would come out of his back end, get plugged into Grubby here, and when Grubby would go, "Oh, hi there, how are you?" He would talk, and the voice would come out of him instead of coming out of Teddy Ruxpin like some kind of weird, some kind of weird demon. Anyway, so next we move on to the last from my little selection of the toys that got away. Now, actually, this one is a game. This is one of several games I wanted as a kid, but again, my family wasn't as well off as most others, and of course, I didn't get this thing. But I wanted one so bad. The other game is another game that I've made a video of, which I'm going to have the little title card right about here. That game was Mousetrap. It's a zany action, a crazy contraption, the fun is catching its mousetrap. But again, like I said, I finally got one of those. And then recently, and I mean like within the last month and a half, after decades of looking over Goodwills and thrift shops and avoiding online because they wanted too much for these things, I finally got another one of those board games that I had been desperately wanting to get my hands on since I was a child, and I saw those awesome board games that made it look like something a lot more exciting than the game itself probably actually is. Ladies and gentlemen, for the first time ever on this Oxmas occasion, this Oxmas season, I present to you the holy grail of 90s kids board games. Do you think you could get caught up in the crossfire, crossfire, crossfire? Yes, I am the proud owner of Crossfire. This was another one of those games that children from my era wanted so bad. This thing, Moon Shoes were another toy, but Moon Shoes, Nickelodeon, GAC, forget all that. Crossfire is where it's at. Now with this game, a lot of you should be fully aware of what this game is. But with this, you would have these purple colored pieces with the ball bearing in the middle, and these would be sitting on that game board that I just showed you with the big Crossfire logo. And what you would do is you would load up these ball bearings here into these contraptions on the side here, and while the game board was sitting there, you would just grab the trigger and pew 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 pew. Essentially, it was kind of air hockey without the air, and you would just try and get those purple pucks across the board into the opponent's goal, I guess you would call this. Now, like I said before, I had been looking for one of these bad boys for years, people, religiously going to Goodwills every Sunday. Of course, when I would have been paid. Just looking and looking and looking and never finding one. And then recently, basically this year, I started going to a Goodwill that has those big blue bins. If y'all ever watch those kind of videos where, people go Goodwill thrift shopping and stuff, and they go to the bins and they're digging around and stuff. I almost missed this. I would never have forgiven myself if I would have walked past this thing and then the person behind me would come up and be like, "Oh my God, Crossfire!" I would never have forgiven myself for that. Because this thing was laying in the bin upside down. And, from this angle, it's kind of unassuming. You wouldn't be able to tell what that is. But as I was walking past it, I saw the red handle. I was like, oh, wait a minute. So I stopped my friend who was with me. I went back over to the bin, which I'd only taken a few steps away from. I flipped it over, and I about had a heart attack. because I was just like, it's Crossfire. Oh, thank you, there is a God. Just thinking about that again, I think I'm gonna cry. But I just saw the game board, I saw this little Ziploc bag here with like all the ball bearings and stuff in it, I saw the instructions. Oh, I need a minute. Got myself all excited again. Whew. Like I said, ladies and gentlemen, I have been looking high and low for this admittedly stupid game for years, but I couldn't find it. And then just that one day, I just happened to go to the Goodwill bins and, oh, God. Now, unfortunately, this thing isn't complete, but it's only missing 10 of the ball bearings, which I suppose I could go to a Home Depot or a store like that and I could just, buy another 10 ball bearings of about the same size. But it's still got the 2 pucks, it's got the little trigger things, it's even got the little springboards, or whatever you'd call these red plastic pieces, which from what I've heard, those things over the years become brittle and it becomes harder and harder to find these with those still intact. All 4 of those bumpers are still intact. Both the guns are still there, although they might need a little cleaning. Don't know how well you can see, but there's like hair and cobwebs right there. Right here-ish. It's dusty. It's got a little bit of damage to the playing field where someone like poked through with something. I'm assuming in a fit of aggravation, or it just got packed away wrong. A bunch of stuff got laid on it. But again, like when I was talking about 2XL, I don't care about... No, not 2XL. Like I was talking about that Jerry Mahoney puppet. I don't care about that. I don't care that it's got a little damage. I don't care that it's dusty and a little dingy and needs a little work to make it more presentable. It's mine. Mine, I tell you. It's not yours, it is mine. Oh, I still have yet to be able to actually play this thing because, well, finding people who actually want to play Crossfire. Because all my friends want to play video games. But anyway, that's about all I've got for this video. So, thank you, ladies, gentlemen, boils, ghouls. Wait, wrong. Back down, Oktoberfest, back in. Boys, girls, ladies, gentlemen, all other configurations of being. Thank you so much for coming back and watching another one of my videos. I do truly hope that you've enjoyed it, and I do truly appreciate the fact that you've come back for another one. If you'd like what you've seen here today, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the little jingle bell for future uploads, to be notified of future uploads once you are subscribed. And with all of that holly jolly holiday hooby wuddy out of the way, this is Oxleymations saying Cowabunga, and I'll see you in the next one. Later.